Hey, everybody. What's up? How's it going? We are almost to the end of the U.S. men's national team's first game under Mauricio Pochettino against Panama. We are up 1-0 on a very well-worked goal between Christian Pulisic and Brendan Aronson and Jedi Robinson. We got finished by Yunus Musa, his first ever goal for his country. A nice one. And it's 1-0 right now with a couple minutes left to go. So I guess really, how are we feeling about this, Chuck, based on what you've seen? Are you feeling good about this first step of the Pochettino era?
What I will say, Jimmy, is it's a process. So I didn't expect to be wowed. I didn't expect for me to say, oh my God, look at the transformation of this team with Mauricio Pochettino on the sidelines. Yeah, we saw some good things, but they still have a long way to go. And this wasn't going to be a one-match cure-all thing from Pochettino. So in the end, yeah, there were some good things, but Panama have brought the game to the U.S. for large portions of this match.
There's a lot of subs here, Big Tones. So maybe second half we can give, there's going to be a different change of flow and rhythm. But based on what you saw, let's say with the guys that started the game, it seemed like I saw some ideas there that we hadn't seen previously under Greg Berhalter.
Yeah, there was. I wrote some stuff down that I liked. I mean, there was a little bit of structure to the game, right? We saw them in this. They were listed as a 3-4, a 4-2-3-1. I'm sorry, but it became a 3-4-2-1. Like Pulisic inside, a little unbalanced with the fullbacks with Anthony Robinson higher up the field than Joe Scally. They were building out with three, so maybe from a Joe Scally standpoint, making the attacking part of the game a little bit easier for him. There was a philosophy. All right, so yeah, you're a couple seconds behind here. That's good news here because they were struggling to close out the match.
Ricardo Pepi, baby, it's what he does. Scores goals in Texas.
Ricardo Pepi. Well, I saw the shirt. I saw the shirt in the stands. It said, "There's no party, no Pepi, no party." Yeah, so that's good that he gets a goal as well. So there was a philosophy. It was the counter press when the ball turned over. Get forward quickly. Credit to Panama. They did not make it easy. And I thought some principles were there, right? Harder work than we've seen in the past. I don't think we have an argument with that. But I'm with Charlie. I didn't expect that this was going to be an overnight success, right? So, 2-0 is probably a good result to go back and work on things.
Yeah, really exciting. 2-0. I'm buzzing right now. Good way to finish this game, get our energy going for the post-game show, which we're going to get to on the Golazo Network right after this. So hit like and subscribe, and let's get after it. Hi, hello, and welcome to your favorite average to good podcast. Call it what you want. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Charlie Davies and Big Tones, Tony Miola, a legend for the U.S. men's national team. Me and Chuck, self-legends, I think, for the U.S. men's national team. But we're happy to be here with you guys for the first game of Mauricio Pochettino's reign as the manager for the U.S. men's national team. 2-0 final score over Panama. Pretty good result. But Chuck, I'm coming to you first. Mm-hmm. Given that we're an average to good podcast, would you say this was an average to good performance from the U.S.?
I would. And it's kind of what we expected. A lot of new wrinkles, a lot of new demands, seeing players in different positions. Perfect example is Yunus Musa playing in that right wing, right midfield type position, which we haven't seen him in with the U.S. men's national team. He played there with Valencia early on in his professional career. But again, were you blown away by the performances tonight? No, but we've been preaching patience all along. So for a first match on the sidelines for Mauricio Pochettino, I'm happy that they won 2-0, and there were some good things that we saw, but a long way to go.
Long way to go. Do you agree with those sentiments, Big Tones?
Yeah, I think I would have said this no matter what, but I did like a couple things. I mean, we have we saw some structure in this group, right? Defending in a 4 in the back, building out with 3 in the back. Joe Scally staying in the 3 with Anthony Robinson higher up the field, which moved Christian Pulisic inside a little bit. So that part of it, there's no doubt for me. We're seeing some ideas from Mauricio Pochettino. We saw some principles, right, where he wants to play at a higher tempo, especially early in the game. I thought they got a lot of good work in the middle of the field. So that was good. And there's a general philosophy from Pochettino. And the passing numbers by individuals in that first half was actually pretty staggering. They were really good when you look at it. So we'll go through these ratings here in a little bit. I think all in all, 2-0. Panama may be unfortunate not to get a goal in this game. But for the most part, I got what I was expecting. And I do like some of the things that we saw. No doubt they need to get better than this. This is not the end product. But I do like some things. One thing maybe defensively I would like to see at the end of the game, and you mentioned the changes, I'd like to see him be more ruthless in closing out the match, right? Because Panama did have some, just looking at some of the highlights here, Panama did have a few opportunities.
Yeah, they did for sure. And before we get into the starting 11, which I think is definitely something we need to talk about in the formation that you mentioned, Big Tones, one of the things that I was pleased to see on both sides of the ball was us being a little bit more decisive. When I look back at the last window in particular, and sure, we had an interim in charge and it felt like everything was up in the air. So I can understand why the team wasn't decisive, but I really liked how quick we were playing. There was a certain rhythm to, at least to the start of the game, first 30 minutes, where at times maybe guys were taking extra touches before, trying to do it all by themselves or be playing in 1s and 2s. But in this game, it was just like, get it, move it to the next guy, get it, move it to the next guy. And if there was a chance to create a numerical advantage, or if we were in a 1v1 and we could run at somebody like Jedi Robinson or Christian Pulisic, I thought we saw more of that. And then defensively, I really like the decisiveness. I know we've been talking about in the lead up to this, and we heard it from the players too in the trainings under Pochettino. There's going to be an instant reaction when they lose the ball. Everybody's going to be super intense, trying to win it back. And I like that because when you know as a defender, you're playing in the back line, and there's going to be an immediate reaction to when the ball is lost, it's a lot easier for you to defend because you know where the passing lanes are or where they're not. And that makes it easier to either close the space or to drop off based on the pressure on the ball. So I actually really liked the decisiveness that I thought was a little bit different. And Chuck, you want to jump in here?
No, I think we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to get into these ratings because I think that will be able to paint a good picture of what we saw tonight.
All right, well, let's take a look at the starting 11 first. I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. So Matt Turner in goal. So Matt Turner was an interesting ad because at least as a starter, sure, he's got all the experience and all that, but Mauricio Pochettino came out and said, if you're not playing for your club team, it's going to be hard to find your way into the starting 11 for the U.S. He gets the start tonight. And then you have, looks like a 4-3-3 here on what we're showing you. It's listed online at 3-4-2-1, but obviously, as Big Tones mentioned, there was a lot of fluidity in how we moved, especially in our back line. So we had Joe Scally right back, Mark McKenzie, Tim Ream, center backs, Anthony Robinson, Jedi Robinson on the left. And then you had Busio and Aiden Morris playing the double sixes, protecting that back four. Yunus Musa playing wide rights. And then you had Brendan Aronson and Christian Pulisic. I think Brendan, let's say if it was a 4-3-3, Brendan Aronson would be more of the 10. Pulisic would be on the left side and Josh Sargent up top. So interesting starting 11. And I think the biggest one for me, well, I guess there's two. And Big Tones, I'll come to you. Busio getting the start. But like Chuck said, once Chuck said this a week and a half ago, that Christian Eriksen was the player that played the most for Pochettino at Spurs and all time or whatever it is. Busio really to fit that role. And like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. But Yunus Musa on the right side, I thought was an interesting choice. And obviously he paid that back by scoring his first ever goal for the U.S.
Yeah, I mean, he was a right-sided midfielder, Musa, right? And when we had the ball, it was really a 3-4-2-1 with Pulisic and Aronson underneath the forward. So again, when I look at the twist there, I like it from Pochettino. I don't know what he was trying to accomplish. We do know, remember, Yunus Musa has played on the right-hand side. Now, with Milan, when he played on the right-hand side, it was more of a wing-back position coming in late in games. He does like to get up the field, so he feels comfortable there. He's got a couple assists from that position. At his previous club in Spain, he played a little more advanced position. Remember, Greg is the guy that dropped him a little bit deeper, right, into the midfield. especially when Tyler was getting hurt. So we saw him a little bit deeper. So a position he's comfortable in, a decent match for him. Good for him to get the goal, his first goal ever in a U.S. jersey. So that's all positive. I thought Morris and Busio, this is my rant about playing games every week. Whether you like those guys or you don't, they look comfortable today. They look comfortable with the ball. They look comfortable connecting with each other. They look comfortable playing the ball forward. One thing that Jordan Morris, I don't remember this so much at Columbus, and maybe because he sat next to, you guys can help me out, maybe because he sat next to Darlington Nagbe, and we know what he does on the field, but he turns and faces forward an awful lot in the midfield. And I think we've missed that for a little while. So that's something I want to continue to watch in his development.
Yeah, and so, Chuck, before I give it to you, one thing that I liked about Busio was there was a play in the first half where he starts to sniff that there's an opportunity for him to get forward and to support the play. And I really love that as well, kind of this late running, join the attack late, hard to mark, right? Because if you're a center back or a holding midfielder, you're kind of watching the ball, especially when it's in the box. You can sneak into good positions. And I want to see more of that. So very similar to wanting Aiden Morris to get the ball and look to play forward. And Busio does that already pretty well. I like that kind of late running. Not to say other guys weren't doing that. Weston McKennie's very good at that as well when he plays a little bit deeper. But I like seeing that from Busio, who I don't really expect that from. I know he does it with Venezia, with Serie A, but maybe there would be a different ask with the national team. So I like that confidence. But yeah, your thoughts, Chuck.
Well, I also want to put into perspective that this is Panama.
Of course.
That this isn't Brazil or Colombia or Uruguay, France, Netherlands, you name it.
Keeping it real, Chuck. Keeping it real.
Somebody has to, right? We got to balance it because it's Panama, and Panama had a lot of possession. They were, especially in the second half, there was a lot of times where they were on the initiative. They were on the front foot. They were in our half, trying to create. Now, did they have the best finishers? Do they have the best attacking players? No. But that's also, one of those things where I'm like, okay, it was a good performance, but it's not great. It's not, we shouldn't be too high on a 2-0 win where against the run of play, we get the second goal to make the scoreline look like better than the actual match was. But I want to give credit to two players in particular for this match. One being Mark McKenzie. This was his best game in a U.S. men's national team
Very
jersey.
Solid. Agreed.
So, and to go on Tony's point, he's playing week in and week out in Liga, and that's a big difference. You could tell there's a maturity about him, and his movement, his positioning, everything looks a lot better at this level for Mark McKenzie. And the other guy is Aiden Morris. This is the best game I've seen him play in a U.S. men's national team kit. Now, I think it goes to the form, being in rhythm, confident, and Mauricio Pochettino talking to these guys and getting to know them and saying, hey, I believe in you. I'm going to give you that opportunity to go out and play. Those two players, for me, had a really strong game. And I know it's Panama. And for me, yes, Aiden Morris against Panama has a little bit more time on the ball sometimes. Maybe they don't come to him quicker as they would in other games because teams will drop off. But given what it is, controlling what he can control, a very strong performance from Aiden Morris.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And there's one area that I don't think we've touched upon yet. There was a lot of passing patterns that we were seeing, right? When Christian Pulisic would drop into that gap and they would look to find him, and then he'd lay it off to Brendan Aronson, or he'd lay it off to Busio and or Aiden Morris, and they'd look, and then he'd run in advance. And then if we could get Pulisic in those central areas running at the back four, yeah, it's going to be lights out. So I really like that we saw that consistently, and it was very hard for Panama to figure that out. And because Panama was pressing as intensely as they were at times, I actually think that makes the game easier because now it's all setting up like the passing pattern you've been working on in training. If they had dropped off and you don't have that space to play into, that's where I actually think we ran into a little bit of issues. So I'm kind of curious how teams are going to try to slow that down moving forward. But I liked that passing pattern and how effective it was throughout the game. Let's take a look at the match stats, though, and see how it all played out. I know for about the first 20 or 30 minutes, the U.S. had 70% possession, but it finished after the 90 minutes, 55% possession in favor of the U.S., only 45, or I should say only, but 45, they started to work their way back into it. Panama, 13 shots for the Panamanians, 4 on target. We had 11 shots, 4 on target. Corners pretty even, 6 in favor of the U.S., 5 in favor of Panama. So they did have, as much as we're saying, yeah, it's just Panama, but they did have some part of the game where they were controlling it, Big Tones. And I wonder how much that's going to be rectified ahead of the Mexico game in terms of where we want to close down space, and maybe we were dropped a little bit too deep on Matt Turner's lap. When I look back on the game, maybe at times we could have been a little higher up the fields. They got that one good chance at the end. The ball got in behind where the guy should have finished it. I didn't think it was as easy as Chuck thought it was easy. Fajardo had
Jose Fajardo had a golden opportunity. Are you out of your mind?
So that changes the complexity of or at least because that would have made it 1-1. I don't think Panama gives up that second one at the end. But anyway, we look at the match stats. And Tones, I want to throw this to you. I'm going to set it up like this. The 2 goals that we ended up scoring, despite all this passing patterns and guys in different spots and the composure of a lot of our players in high pressure situations in and around this game, in and around the field. Both of our goals started from a long ball up to the left side. Jedi Robinson does really well to dig it out and then plays a Pulisic, and then there's some magic, gets it over to Yunus Musa, taps it in. Great. Thank you so much. The last one, it's Matt Turner knocking it up. Tillman brings it down. He plays Haji right in behind. He puts it across to Pepi. Thank you very much. Makes it 2-0. So for all this stuff and intricacies that we're talking about in possession, it was really just a couple route 1 plays that ultimately unlocked Panama.
Well, doesn't this go along with what Pochettino said in his pregame presser when he said something to the effect of, I understand people always say that they want to live and die by their principles, but I'd rather live. And he was basically saying, right, like, we have an idea of how we want to play, but when the ball needs to go over the top, it needs to go over the top. And how often we've been talking about this, right? So it was the first one was Tim Ream, right? Sent the long ball down.
That's right.
Beats everybody. Anthony Robinson, who's playing high up the field, gets in behind the defense, and then there's a little give and go. He digs it out, as you mentioned. Little give and go with Pulisic and Aronson, and then a great ball, great run, great, really good finish from Musa. So I think that goes along when we talk about these principles. This is something that we didn't see a lot with Greg, right? It was always, how many times did we come on this podcast? And I know you guys did it before, and we were talking about plan B, right? Like, what's plan B? We just keep plan B is not, just beating plan A over the head all the time. It's just figuring out what the right soccer play is. And maybe, Jimmy, that's what you just saw in those 2 moments.
No, I agree with you. It was nice to see a little bit of flexibility in how sometimes you got to mix it up, right? I ask for it sometimes too. Just turn the other team around and let them try to play out of trouble. Or maybe we get to it first like Jedi did on the first goal, and it lends itself to us being in a better position, higher up the field, closer to their goal, and then we can work some magic from there and take some risk. It was nice to see us taking some risk sometimes. But yeah, Chuck, your thoughts on just kind of the run of play and how we were creating our chances.
I think what Tony said, I mean, it wasn't anything new. I didn't watch the game and say, oh my gosh, we're seeing different passing patterns and I think the effort at times looked a little bit more intense, like the urgency, the tempo of the passing. But yeah, we saw some long balls. We saw, them play a little bit more direct. There wasn't a lull in the game where we saw, okay, the U.S. is controlling the tempo. They're going to slow things down. I want to use a perfect example of in MLS. We see Columbus Crew, for instance. I called the game tonight against Revolution, so I got a chance to see. They take this thing out of the game. They kill it, and they just keep it. And once the U.S. had the lead, you would have expected them to say, okay, we're not going to allow Panama to have the ball. We're going to keep the ball. And they gave the ball to Panama, and then they felt like they were defending for large portions of the match as Panama kept pushing. That's something that needs to get way better.
Yeah, I agree. Now let's talk about the subs then really quick.
Jimmy, real quick on that, right? Like, because we talk about killing the game off. It's a great point by Chuck using. We all kind of know what Columbus is. There's 2 ways to kill off a game, right? You kill off the game by keeping the ball, or you kill off the game by being really solid defensively and nobody gets an opportunity. I don't know that we did either of those tonight, right? So Panama still had opportunities. So even if we were set up, and I don't think Pochettino set it up that way. Even if we were going to drop back, we gave him far too much in the end. You mentioned that chance. So I just wanted to bring that up, that I think we were kind of caught in the middle of trying to do both of those things, right?
Right.
And we were a little bit sloppy in that area.
Yeah, I agree. Managing the game, right? Something we've talked about plenty of times on the show. Let's talk quickly about the subs before we get to our first break. Ricardo Pepi comes in, scores. Tanner Tessman came in for Busio, his former teammate at Venezia. Malik Tillman comes in, ends up having the second assist on Pepi's goal. Zendejas comes in, and Christopher Lund comes in at the left back spot for Jedi Robinson. Did any of those guys stand out for you? Pepi's going to be the obvious choice, Chuck, as a resident number 9. We could maybe even talk about Josh Sargent. We haven't done that either. Maybe he had a good chance that he put over the goal, and I know we're going to get into player ratings here in a second, so maybe just focus back on the subs. We'll talk about Sargent afterwards.
Yeah. I mean, Haji Wright also with the great ball.
Great ball.
So
great ball.
That's a beautiful assist from Haji Wright. But, yeah, I mean, Lund, for me, just didn't do enough. Tessman, it was too short, never got involved in the game, never got into a rhythm. Pepi, outside of the goal, which is all you want is the goal, right? As a striker coming into the game, have an impact, really didn't do well up until that goal, but the goal is how you get playing time. The goal is what you're asked to do as a striker, so he delivered on that note. And I love the fact that he scored in Texas. We've talked about Ricardo Pepi. This is a guy who has still so much potential and room for growth, and he just needs to play consistently. And PSV have already talked about it. He's doing great, but he's never going to play for a Luc de Jong. So for me, other than those two guys, I don't think the substitutes really had an impact.
No, understood. I do think we lost a little bit of our structure, let's say, when those subs did come on. That's obviously something for Mauricio Pochettino to address with the group. Very quickly about Ricardo Pepi. I'm sure he wants to shake that super sub tag, but then he comes on and scores. It's just what he does. So he's never going to shake that super sub tag until I guess he stops scoring and maybe scores when he finally gets
it'll keep you on the team, Jimmy.
That's true.
It'll keep you in the mix,
Fair
right?
Point.
It's all you can do. The coach gives you what did he come in? He came in 67th minute, right? He gives you 20 something minutes. He had 6 touches in the game. He scores a goal, right?
There you go.
I mean,
there you go.
Yeah, we can ask for more. There's no doubt. But if he does that in the World Cup somewhere, we're like, oh, he's a hero, right? Yeah.
Right,
so,
right.
By the way, do we know I'm assuming the no Pepi, no party, was that a family member or a friend?
Family member.
We got to get some of those.
We need a shirt.
I don't know. Call Jimmy.
I'm going to say no Chuck getting triggered. No party. Okay, everybody, we're taking our first break. Call what you want. When we come back, more of the good stuff. We'll get some player ratings, so go anywhere. Welcome back in to Call It What You Want. I'm Conrad Dino alongside Chuck Wagon and Big Tones, and we are getting after it. U.S. men's national team, big 2-0 win over Panama. The first game in charge of the team, Mauricio Pochettino, that is. We'll get into some player ratings as we discuss. We're going to go line by line here, and Big Tones is our resident goalkeeper. You get to start. Matt Turner, out of 10. Let's say, 6 is average? 6 is average.
6 is average.
What are you giving him in this game? All things considered, Matt Turner.
I sent in the group chat my halftime rating was a no rating, and then he had the double save. And I ended up giving him a 7 because of the double save. Still be a little bit cleaner with his feet, but that's a big save. Went down to his left, ball gets rebounded, he gets across the goal, makes that one on the ground. So a 7, and there really wasn't a heck of a lot to do in this match for him.
Just because we didn't talk to you about it directly, were you surprised that he started?
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised based on everything Pochettino, has basically said. I wonder now if he gets 2 games, right? I wonder if he gets a second game in this one, or does he go someplace else? We can go through that at another time, I'm sure. But yeah, I was a little bit surprised.
Could I also add this just in case?
Yeah.
Could it also be that Schulte didn't impress in training.
More than
absolutely.
100% could say,
100%.
Mauricio Pochettino say, okay, Matt Turner used to be the one. He's not playing. Look at all these other guys, Stefan, Schulte. But then they didn't impress in training. That to me is the only logical reason is he goes, all right, I know where everyone stands. And the goalkeeper coach says, you know what? Hey, Mauricio, Turner's been the best in training. So I know he's not playing, but these
Isn't
guys,
that what you want?
Yeah, that's exactly what you want.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes me wonder about Malik Tillman not starting and barely getting too much time, and then Weston McKennie not playing at all. So we can get into that once we hit the midfielders. I'm going to do defenders next. I got Joe Scally. I'm going to give him a big fat 6. He did his job, but not really much more than that. Pretty nondescript performance from Joe Scally. I will say one of the things, if I had to nitpick Joe Scally here, there was a clear, at least for me, a clear idea that, okay, with Yunus Musa playing wide right, and when we went to a back 3 when in the buildup, right, and then you had Anthony Robinson up high on the left side, Yunus Musa was acting as our width on the right side. Joe Scally had a few opportunities where he could have played Yunus the ball early, and I think that's what they want. I think it's by design. You want to get Yunus in a 1v1 situation because that guy just glides by people. Now, I still have an issue with Yunus getting into good spots and then playing safe when I still think he could go and maybe take a risk as he's closer to the opponent's box. That'll be a conversation for another time. But I just thought Scally could get him the ball a little bit quicker, especially with the pace that we were trying to move the ball and a little bit more decisive in that. So that's me nitpicking. Defensively, I don't know how much work he had to do, all things considered, but so I'm giving him a 6. I agree. That was Mark McKenzie's best performance. I thought he was really steady and steady throughout. There was no one big mistake. There was that one play that we discussed, Farhado at the ends. I mean, got behind the whole defense. Great ball, by the way, but also got in behind Mark McKenzie. If they score that, we're probably rating him a little bit different. So that needs to get solved, and there needs to be a little bit of anticipation there, but I liked him there. I give him a 7. Tim Ream, I give a 7 as well. Got the captain's armband. I was a bit surprised there. I just thought Captain America, Christian Pulisic, would just get that from here on out until he decides to retire from the U.S. team. But Mauricio Pochettino showing respect to an old center back. That's what center backs do, looking out for old center backs. I'll give him a 7 as well. Jedi, give 7.5. I thought it's very clear when he's not playing for us that we miss Jedi Robinson. And for him to get forward, and I thought he was dangerous, and he does the work defensively. I was really impressed with him and his composure under pressure and always looking to get in behind. So I'm always happy with Jedi, especially as he's like these last 2 years, he's been excellent. So I'll give him a 7.5, but those are my ratings for the defenders. Tones, I'm coming back to you for midfielders. What are you saying? And let's say it's Aiden Morris. Let's leave Pulisic for Chuck. So you got Aiden Morris and Busio and Brendan Aronson. What are you saying for? Oh, I guess Musa would be thrown in there too if you want. I don't know. Maybe give that to Chuck as well. Tony's muted. Tony's muted right now.
Yeah.
He's back.
Sorry, guys. I just want to. Has anyone ever done the ratings from Fayetteville, Arkansas, on the campus of the University of Arkansas in an Airbnb?
No, I don't.
Am I the first? Okay, good. Then let's roll with it here.
You look like you're reading us a book, like a bedtime story, Chuck. He's reading something.
Notes. I don't have my normal setup. I just got a computer. I turned furniture over here.
Make me a glass of tea while you're at it.
Yeah.
What do you want? A cup of tea? I got behind me.
I can see him blinking back there.
Really? Oh yeah. Sorry. Let me put my head over here so the thing doesn't. I was really impressed with Aiden Morris tonight. I'm going to start there, Jimmy. I gave him a 7.5. He was 71 of 78 in passes tonight in the middle field. He did give one in the first half away that led to a couple scrambles in front of goals. So clean that up a little bit. But he looked really comfortable. And how many times did he turn in the midfield? And I love Pochettino. Right at the end of the half, there was a chance to turn, and there was a long ball that could have been played over the top to Anthony Robinson on the left-hand side, and he didn't get it. I don't know if you noticed Pochettino on the sideline jump up, and that's like I want it. I want to be good every moment. But Aiden Morris 7.5. Busio, another one, 43 for 46 in passing tonight. I gave him a 7. I like his energy. I like, he finds spots. He gets forward.
He looks super calm too. Very cool.
He is. He's really calm. And again, I go back to the whole playing thing, right? Like, you're comfortable when you're playing, not when you're playing 8 minutes a game and missing 2 weeks, Tanner Tessman, I didn't give a rating to, but nothing bad. I mean, he did what he had to do in the game. He was involved a little bit late in the match, but I didn't give. He was. I'm looking here. He was 11 for 13 on passes, so clean and did a job. And then Yunus Musa, who really played as a right midfielder in this game, right? I gave him a 7 in this match. He gets the goal. A couple times he was dribbling at players early in the first half. I like that. He lost the ball a couple times, but that's okay if you're taking players on. But I thought, all in all, it's hopefully a game that unlocks Yunus Musa and gives him a little bit of confidence, because the guy needs some minutes. So, yeah, we got him right here. 7.5, 7, and a 7 in the midfield. I don't know how to score Tanner Tessman in this one, but nothing bad out of him. All positive stuff.
I would have gave Musa a 6 if he didn't score.
Yeah, okay.
I wrote it down. I had a 6.
Yeah.
I had him as a 6 until the goal.
Yeah. I honestly, Chuck, to your point, I think he plays safe when I don't think he needs to at times. And this kind of speaks to some of our players where they have an opportunity, like you can see them looking to go forward, and there might be a chance or a passing lane to do it, but they're like, I'm just going to play back.
Yeah.
And I especially against teams like Panama, where we can drive the game a little bit more, it feels like we can. We have the confidence knowing that we can. It'd be nice if we had that moment to go forward. Now, I know we can't do it 100 miles an hour all the time, but it's just something I wanted to throw out
But
there.
Is that confidence, Jimmy? Is that
a little bit
from
not
feeling it all every week,
Yeah, no, that's true. And obviously he's being probably tasked with things that he's not right now with his club. I mean, I know at times they put him out wide, but he was really out wide today. So he's probably seen a different area of the field. But I'm thrilled that he got his first goal. I still have my Yunus Musa pajamas, so I'm a huge fan still. But 3 shots, 41 touches, 85 minutes, first career goal, as we mentioned. So a big night for him, and long may that continue. Confidence is a hell of a drug, as we talk about. All right, Chuck, let's get to it. Resident number 9, you got our front 3. And if you want to bring up Ricardo Pepi in your ratings as well, happy to do that. But take it away.
Yeah. So I'll start with Christian Pulisic, 7.5, 67 minutes. He had the assist, but there are 3 chances he created. I thought he was impactful. He got around. He wasn't trying to do too much. Good pressure. So 7.5 for me for Christian Pulisic. And then Josh Sargent, I gave him a 6 because the work rate was there. He was trying, but he missed the left-footed ball across. It goes. He's
got to get that on target, right?
He's got to put it on target.
Put it on target.
The other shot with his left foot near post. Kuti Mosquera had a relatively easy save, but you felt like, 19 touches. Could he have done a little bit more? I think he did as much as he could with 19 touches, but it would have been nice to see him get a little bit more of a connection, whether it be with Christian or Weah or Aronson. But not enough. So I don't see him starting in the next game. And then Brandon Aronson, I gave him a 6.5. The ball from Pulisic, I think he should have finished that. He kind of shot it at the keeper, but very good on the 1-2 with Christian Pulisic to play that ball. It was a nice delayed little pass for Christian to run onto for the cross to Yunus Musa. Brandon Aronson, it's never a case of lack of effort or lack of movement, but it's the substance. And I think he's getting closer because he's playing consistently with Leeds. I think we have seen progress from him, but it still needs to be better. And the physical matches where, he's getting hit and you got to have the killer pass or that killer touch to keep possession. There are times where he rushes too much and just getting that composure.
I think what I liked about Brandon Aronson's game is what we always appreciate about him, right? It's his energy, it's his desire to track the ball down, his high pressuring, which led to that good interchange actually with Christian and Josh Sargent, and which led to Brandon Aronson's shot. I love that how quick we got into transition to create that opportunity. Can we do more of that? And what's interesting is we're creating these overloads when Christian pinches in and Brendan gets out a little bit and there's like a pocket. Basically, what I see when you say the 3-4-2-1, let me give everybody a mental picture of this. The way that I see it is that we have a box in midfield. You have 2 6s and 2 10s. Now, Christian has, and probably being asked to float a little bit, so maybe he's out as a winger based on how it's going, but ultimately trying to create that room so that Jedi can get up and down the left side. But I like the 2-6s, 2-10s because there's some fluidity there, and it allows those guys to join Josh Sargent. If you want, you can be a second striker. You can be a out-and-out striker. You can drop into midfield. So I like a little bit of that, what we're seeing. But Brendan does provide a little bit of that bite, which I think gives him an advantage over other players in our player pool. That why I can see why Pochettino is drawn to him. Josh Sargent, though, 19 touches. That's a tough one overall. Now, let's bring Ricardo Pepi into this as a goal scorer, because I feel like we should do a Josh Sargent versus Ricardo Pepi tail of the tape, as it were, just to see who made the most of their minutes. 23 minutes, 1 shot, 1 goal for Ricardo Pepi. That's nice. 67 minutes, 2 shots for Josh Sargent. Chuck, I thought that was interesting that you said that Sargent probably won't start against Mexico. I would roll him out again, but you think somebody else is going to start. Why and who? Why and who?
Pochettino has to maximize every match in each window. So he's giving guys against Panama 67 minutes, right? He gave Christian 67, he gave Sargent 67, Busio and Anthony Robinson. Now, one player we haven't talked about yet is Weston McKennie. He didn't play at all today. I do expect him to start against Mexico. Part of me says, okay, Mauricio Pochettino is coming in. He's making a point. He's saying, hey, no one's guaranteed to play. Maybe he's trying to light a fire, but also he's smart. He's smart. He's saying, yeah, that's also possible. But he's also smart, saying, you know what? We're going to Mexico in altitude. I need some fresh legs, guys with quality. I know what Weston can do. I want to see what Gianluca Busio and Aiden Morris look like together at the base of a 4-2-3-1 or a 3-4-3. So I'm okay with it, and it worked out. But as the opponents get better and we start getting tested, if you think Weston McKennie is not going to be on the team after watching how he's playing with Juve, you're out of your mind. Now, it's getting him to play like that and getting the most out of him with the U.S. team in a system, and I think you can get that with Weston.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the starting 11. Tony, we're going to take our next break. I'll call it what you want. When we come back, though, we're going to hear from Mauricio Pochettino, and we're going to hear from Big Tones because I know he's ready to jump in. Don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
People sometimes say, no, that is my philosophy, my idea, and I'm going to die with my idea. No, I want to live because life is, it's amazing. I want to be clever and I want to win. I don't want to die. Sometimes we cannot play. Sometimes we need to find different way, to put our player in a comfortable zone, not to in an uncomfortable zone that, to reduce after the confidence to play. We are a team that we have a massive challenge ahead, and all that concept and idea is to translate. That is in the way to find the best way to compete.
So that's Mauricio Pochettino before this Panama game, but ultimately speaks to what we have been discussing as well. Putting some ideas with these players, giving them parameters to which to play within, and then letting them be themselves, but also, hey, if something's not working, I'm not going to live or die by this philosophy. I appreciate that sentiment a lot. So Big Tones, you were ready to jump in there at the very end of the last break. What do you got for us?
Well, just on the thing that Chuck said about, Weston McKennie resting now and sort of managing the minutes in the midfield. So does that mean by virtue of that Aiden Morris doesn't play against Mexico, who might have been your best player on the field? He went 90 tonight, right? Yeah. So he got 90 tonight, and he's been getting 90 week in and week out. So I just wonder how and I'm only asking to see how Pochettino kind of addresses this thing, right? And we're going to find out here in a couple of days. But it just made me think when Charlie was talking about, Weston McKennie and now going down to altitude. It makes me think Brandon Vasquez, who didn't play tonight, he plays in Mexico. He's used to some of the altitude. Does he maybe get a start as the number 9? Just all these thoughts are kind of going through my head.
Well, that's what I'm here for.
Well, yeah, Chuck, I'm going to throw this to you.
You triggered me.
And we got plenty of time to do that. What I want to say is, okay, when you hear from Mauricio Pochettino and he talks about being adaptable and not live or dying by one particular philosophy, I wonder if anybody turned his head tonight, where maybe he had an idea of what he wanted to and who he wanted to start against Mexico, Chuck. But by virtue of some of the performances we saw tonight, he's like, well, wait a second. Maybe I do want to see Aiden Morris a little bit more. Maybe I do want to see Mark McKenzie a little bit more, or maybe I need to give more minutes to Josh Sargent to just see. I don't maybe have all the answers, but I want to see it now in a difficult environment against a tough opponent. Obviously, Mexico is going to be a lot different when they're playing at home.
Maybe for the future, Jimmy, but I'm still.
Do you think he already made his decision on his starting 11 and won't have his head turned at all?
I think he may have his head turned for the future and be like, oh, he's seen these guys in training. He has an idea, but he's got to give every player the opportunity to play, to see what they can do. This is still a trial for him. He's still trying to get used to the players and their tendencies and personalities, getting to know guys, having all these conversations. So for me, it makes a lot of sense that we're going to see new players against Mexico. He's not going to run out the same 11.
No, I understand that. Yeah.
I think he's going to see, a lot of new players in this game.
Jim, can we shorten the question?
Sure.
Did anyone turn his head tonight? Forget Mexico.
Okay.
And short, you know what I'm saying? Like, did anyone turn his head maybe that he knew about, as you said, but maybe he got something more out of than he thought? I would think that based on what this midfield has been with Tyler Adams, McKennie, Musa, for the most part, we've seen Luca Della Torre in there over the last couple of years. I'd say Aiden Morris and Busio. Like, did he? I get it's Panama. I understand, but are those two guys that he expected to even get as much against Panama as he got out of them?
Mm-hmm. I agree with that, because if you're trying to build a midfield you want to hold the ball and dictate a little bit more of the action, then I think those two guys would probably fit that mold better than Yunus Musa, who his instincts aren't to possess out of pressure. His instincts are to run with the ball out of pressure. Weston's a little bit he can do everything, but I don't know if I consider him like an out and out possession guy. And then Tyler Adams is just an enforcer, right? Covers a lot of ground, keeps it simple. But I think Busio and Aiden Morris give you a little bit more of what you're talking about, Big Tones. And if that's how Mauricio Pochettino wants to play, then yeah, I think those guys are in a good position right now. I will add Yunus Musa, because he took a little bit of a risk putting him so far wide right. And I thought, because of the goal in particular, Mauricio Pochettino was rewarded with that decision. Whatever we think about it, Pochettino is going to evaluate him through the lens that he wants to see and want him to. This is what we've been clamoring for Musa forever. Can he bring attacks to completion? Can he contribute with some goal scoring type of opportunities, whether setting something up or getting on the end of things? And he did that tonight. So I think in some ways Yunus Musa probably helped his cause as well. How about you, Chuck?
I would say Busio and Aiden Morris and Mark McKenzie.
McKenzie's a good shot.
Those are the three for me that I think Mauricio Pochettino had an idea, but then was by their performances, I think I can get more out of him. And we talked about Busio having the same type of profile as Christian Eriksen. Obviously, he's not Christian Eriksen, but in terms of ideas moving forward, because it was always in a lot of people's minds, Weston McKennie, you can even throw Johnny Cardoso in there, but Weston McKennie and Tyler Adams as the two at the base in a 4-2-3-1 or 3-4-3, and just trying to figure it out. We didn't even talk about Gio Reyna at this point, right? I think there's also, when you're throwing in a Serginho Dest into the equation, that also is another possibility. Timothy Weah, that's another guy. These are guys who have the quality and will be playing. It's just how they're used. But in terms of guys tonight, who I think we're like, whoa, we have some players here. It's Busio, Morris, and McKenzie. But again, it's Panama. We can't. Let's not go.
Of course. Hey, we can only play the opponents that are in front of us.
Yeah.
So this is all we can evaluate.
This Charlie, you just got me even more excited. I'll tell you why. No, I'm serious. Because no. This is great, because you just mentioned Serginho Dest, and it just immediately I went to. We're always talking about being fluid with our formations, right? If you have Serginho Dest on the field tonight, you don't play the same way. You don't ask Serginho Dest to do what Joe Scally did tonight. So then Now you got to make a change, right? And you just wonder what Pochettino is going to do, because there's no way you ask Serginho Dest to sit back there.
Dest would be in for Musa.
Yeah, he'd have to play a little bit higher up the field, or you interpret the right fullback position a little bit differently, right? So now I'm excited to see when Dest comes in, what it looks like under Pochettino, right? And what the idea looks like.
For me, I thought we played primarily a back three tonight, which is something we've been clamoring for. And Joe Scally was kind of the right center back. McKenzie was
in build up.
In build up for sure.
Yeah.
But even at times with our pressuring, like Scally never jumped into the next line, but you could see Jedi getting a lot higher, obviously, to get in the attack, but also pressing a little bit higher as well. He would drop in when it made sense and the situation called for it, but it still felt like we were in a bit of a three. And at times, I know you said 3-4-2-1, but it looked like a 3-3-3-1. I played that once against Panama for Bruce Arena. It was interesting, but it gave us a lot of fluidity for the same reasons we saw tonight. So, Chuck, I'm going to name these substitutes for us tonight. Okay, the ones that played, the ones that didn't, and I want you to tell me which names you think are going to start for us against Mexico, just out of curiosity. Okay, Ricardo Pepi. Don't have to say them yet. Ricardo Pepi, Tander Tessman, Malik Tillman, Haji Wright, Alex Sendejas, Christopher Loons, Austin Trusty, Weston McKinney, Miles Robinson, Patrick Schulte, Ethan Horvath, Brandon Vasquez. That is a lot of dudes. Which ones of those do you think are going to start? 1, 2, 3.
Ooh.
There's 12 guys. 12 guys to choose from.
Yeah. So
Weston McKinney. I think we're all like.
I think Weston McKinney starts. Okay. In Mexico.
So 1, that's a lock.
Yep. I think Christian Pulisic starts. That's a lock.
Yeah, well, that's not a sub. He wasn't on my 12-man list. So everybody hit us up at Golazo America or hit us up in the chat right now. Of the 12 names I named, which ones do you think will be starters against Mexico?
I think it's a toss-up between Brandon Vasquez and Ricardo Pepi getting the start. And I think flip on that one. I think Ricardo Pepi gets the start because he's not playing all that much at PSV. You know, he's a substitute. So I could see him getting the start and then Vasquez coming in as a substitute. That makes sense to me. I could see Miles Robinson coming in this game just because he needs to get a look. And what better place than playing in Mexico against Mexican national team?
Sure. So those are your
yeah. It's like Sendejas didn't do anything to help himself today.
He was a late ad anyway.
Yeah.
I wonder about Pulisic, right? They play on Saturday. I just pulled it up against Udinese. Altitude. What did he get tonight? 67 minutes. Yeah. And he looked tired in the end. To me, I wonder if he gives him a start or brings him off the bench maybe for second half hour, and gives Haji Wright an opportunity.
That's not a bad shout. Not a bad shout. All right, we're going to take our last break of Call It What You Want. When we come back, final thoughts that we have for this U.S. men's national team against Panama. Do not go anywhere. Welcome back into your favorite Average to Good podcast. Call It What You Want. As a reminder, join us again on Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern as we preview the U.S. men's national team's game against Mexico in Mexico, which will be nice. We usually play them on American soil. This time, we're going to go play in the altitude and have some fun.
I like that. I
like it a lot too, Chuck. So, Chuck, let's go. Final thoughts. We got this game. Mauricio Pochettino's first game in charge.
Yes.
Finally, the hype is done. We've got something to sink our teeth into, to evaluate. I think a promising first step. We saw some ideas. I really appreciated the decisiveness on both sides of the ball, so I want to see more of that against Mexico. What were your final thoughts about this whole first game experience?
My final thoughts are it's a positive step for Mauricio Pochettino, getting to know the players. A 2-0 win. Was it the most convincing match? No, but it's just a good start. And so I really like that Busio, Morris, and McKenzie stepped up as players who hadn't really played at the highest level for the U.S. men's national team. So I'm hyped. I'm hyped about the future. I knew this was going to be a process. You got to be patient, and I think this is a good first step for Mauricio Pochettino.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with those sentiments. Big Tones, what do you think? What are your final thoughts?
Yeah, decent performance. Happy for Pochettino to get the win in the first game. And now he's got something to chew on, right? He's got something to go back and look, and you don't have to see it all in training all the time. And now he can start to make his adjustments. And but I'm with Chuck here on what you said earlier. He's got to see as many players as possible, right? Ooh. Because you're going to have to have a database of all of these players in your head, and you can't do it all on video. You got to do it with your ideas. So he's going to have to get them in somehow. And as we know, there's not a ton of time. So I would expect 4 or 5 changes in that starting lineup.
Okay, yeah. Resident goalkeeper of Call It What You Want. Are you starting Matt Turner against Mexico, or are you going with somebody different, and who?
Yeah, I'd give someone else a shout. I really would. I mean, now he's seen Matt. He knows Matt from England. He's seen him train and all of that stuff. I'd give somebody else.
Could I add one thing, because I took this note?
No, look at these notes. What a professional.
6:03. Matt Turner receives the ball, and he dinks that ball to Anthony Robinson. It's a nice little chop at it, and Robinson brings it down and plays it. You could see Mauricio Pochettino at the touchline going, Turner, and giving him the big thumbs up and like that positive encouragement. And you could see that Matt Turner looked a little bit more comfortable. And I think that there is something there, because Pochettino sees the ability of Matt Turner.
We got to see more players. We got to see more players.
That's all I'm saying is you can see that Mauricio Pochettino appreciates Matt Turner. In that instance, he was really trying to encourage him. It's 6 minutes into the game. That's what I'm telling you.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that. No, it's a good note. But if we want to see more players, I wonder, Horvath or Schulte? Big Tones. If we had one or the other, who would you want to see?
And he's got Zach Steffen in camp too.
Oh, that's right. Zach Steffen.
Yeah, I wonder who. And I saw Steffen talking about how everyone's going at each other in training. Yeah, he wasn't rostered tonight. I wonder what that means. Schulte's had a good run in Mexico with Columbus, right? So
yeah,
it's
gonna be interesting to see. We can't wait to bring you more of that action again Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern. We're coming back to you live here on the Golasso America YouTube channel. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for hanging out with us on the Golasso Network. Thanks for hanging with us tonight after a nice.
And for all those people out there
win
in those youth soccer Columbus tournaments, the Indigenous People Weekend, for me, it's been awesome. I gotta shout out everyone in Connecticut. That's been a great time.
I love that. Like, we should give more shout outs like that at the end of every show. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. We'll see you for the next one. Call What You Want is out. Later.